Hello. I am back. Let's see. Still sending data to YouTube. There we go. It's fixed. It's fixed. Oh. There we go. There we go. The one restream, it says it's still sending data. Yay! Yay! We can start. Well, yeah, it's good for you guys, but earlier I actually had to reattempt streaming and fix the streaming key for YouTube to actually get it to work. So now you guys are seeing fine. You weren't seeing anything before because it wasn't showing up as streaming on YouTube. It would just say you just streamed like 20 minutes ago, which I didn't. You just streamed 113 minutes ago. I didn't. Etc, etc, etc. And it'll say 2 people are waiting in the wings for us to start streaming. Yeah, I'm just going to forego the intro music because we've already been listening to that for like 2 minutes. We don't need to hear that anymore. I grab my coffee. Uh-oh. What? What? Okay, Restream says that I'm not even connected to YouTube. Let me see my dashboard. What's going on? Hi.
Oops. Sorry, I forgot to unmute my computer. Hello, we are here.
Restream is really freaking out.
When is it not freaking out?
Just the technical difficulties just keep going up and up and up.
Yeah.
Basically what had happened is, through Restream, YouTube's data was not being sent through, so it was as though I wasn't streaming at all, but according to everybody else, I am streaming now. And Restream right now is telling me that there is nothing there.
The restream is broke.
Yeah, so I'm just going to ignore the Restream chat when it comes to, like, YouTube, but I will look at it if any Twitch chat shows up.
Fair enough, fair enough. Hopefully it stays stable today.
Hopefully. No.
So yeah, again, thank you. Yes, welcome everyone. Welcome again to the show.
This is episode 53.
Yes, it has been a slow news week as of late.
Yep.
Can we talk about Terraria's final Mangor update? Go ahead if you want to say it.
I've only seen the trailer. I've seen, like, glimpses of what they're adding. I am very, very excited for this update, but I'm also very sad to see that this is going to be their finale, possibly.
Well, that's the thing about Terraria. I mean, when did that come out again?
A long time ago.
Yeah, and it's only now coming to an. I mean, that's saying something.
Yeah.
You know, that is the staying power of a well put together game.
That is the dedication and love that went
Yes.
into this game.
And it's coming to. It's like with any good thing, it eventually has to come to an end.
Yeah. Like, well,
Which,
technically, the game has ended. It's just the updates just kept coming and coming and coming, but they were getting slower and slower and slower to come out.
mm. Well, that's the weird thing because controversial opinion incoming.
Oh no.
I find I find it that like Minecraft completely overshadowed Terraria. Like in terms of like exposure and people just kind of like talking about it. Like it seems like you can't talk about Terraria without mentioning Minecraft in the same sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's kind of sad, really, when you consider it. It's it tried to do its own thing, and it still does its own thing. It's just it's it gets overshadowed by Minecraft, and that's the end.
The same thing, like, almost happened with Starbound. When it came out, like, when it was being announced and it was starting to come out, everybody just attacked it. Like, it's just a clone of Terraria. Like, Terraria has gotten so popular that now it is the Minecraft of the next generation. Where it overshadows other games that are similar to it just because they have, like, they share a few mechanics, which is side scroller.
Yes, which again, it's not. I'm not saying it's all terrible. I'm just saying it's funny, really.
Yeah.
That said, of course, yeah, part of the reason why I think Terraria never really got to the heights of Minecraft, or it never really exploded in popularity like Minecraft did, is because there weren't that many what's the word? There weren't that many creators out there who are covering Terraria. The only one that comes to mind is Element Animation and their um,
Weird animations that very quickly turned
yeah.
from Element Animation to a bigger studio.
Yeah, but that's kind of the weird thing because, as it turns out, at some point, I think midway through the development of the Terraria animated series, um, their one of their voice actors died, and
Oh
that kind of
no.
threw everything. That kind of threw everything to the wayside, and then suddenly the animation quality and the audio quality suddenly took a huge nosedive.
Actually,
And
he passed away after the quality changed.
oh, okay, then never mind. But the point still stands. It changed so strangely from a rather smooth, sorry, and interesting animation style, and suddenly it just kind of looks like some Chinese knockoff 3D kid show.
Yeah.
Like you always see those everywhere you look, like on YouTube. You're like, I want to look up something, and then boom, weird Chinese animation. That's
Yeah.
why I feel like it happened, and then after that, they just kind of said, you know what, let's not continue this, and it never did, as far as I know, anyways.
I have to say this skull guy in the beginning was so funny. Because
Mm.
he doesn't want to fight, but like as he's fighting, he's complaining like, "I hate you, I hate the world, I hate me," and all the time he's just stabbing forward and killing things.
That's the weird thing about that fucker. It's just, wait a minute, why do I care? I'm dead. Yeah, he really shouldn't care.
Uh, Terraria, by the way, was
Mm-hmm.
released and has been in some form of a. Oh wait, no, that's Terraria 2. What? Wait. What? But according to this, um, it has been in development since.
Excuse me.
Bless you. It's been in development since 2012.
Oh, well, that's saying something. I didn't even know there was a sequel.
Nope, I was wrong. The one that we're actually talking about, the one that's not being made, like the Terraria 2, uh, Terraria has been in development and was first released in 2011, even older.
Hmm, that's saying something.
Yeah. I still love the game, it's just I get burnt out by it so quickly. It's definitely a lot more fun when you have friends playing with you.
Oh yeah, like any game with multiplayer aspects to it.
My favorite Oh wow, we have we have 5 people in YouTube, but Restream is not showing YouTube chat
Because Restream sucks.
currently. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh no. Uh, Ignoring that bit.
Yeah.
My
But like I said, go ahead.
my favorite. I can't. It's hard to decide, but like I have 2 different times of playing Terraria with friends. One with Koozie and his friend Nat, and the other one was with Koozie and Bill. You can tell I play this with Koozie a lot. But the thing is, like, the one with Koozie and Bill had the giant golden penis. Like, that was Koozie's house. A giant golden dick floating in the air with cloud jizz coming out of the top. He had
Jeez.
all of the lady NPCs in the dick. And then, like, the second time I played, it was not long after I had my surgery. So it was rather recent in comparison. It was modded. And all I remember, like, my favorite memory is watching Koozie stand there in the open with, like, a flock of butterflies around him. And no matter what came close to him, unless you're a friend of his, the butterflies just slowly morphed into a ball close to that thing and killed it with one hit.
Jeez.
Nobody
Ball
was
of
spared.
butterfly. Well, it's kind of funny. It's like a ball of butterflies.
Yeah. It's a summon
My
item, and I believe the mod developer recently adjusted it so it's not as powerful.
I'm sorry. That kind of reminds me of when Some Call Me Johnny did a review of one of the Sonic games, and it was one of the older ones where you could play as like Tails and a few other characters and give them super forms. And apparently, Tails has a quote unquote flicky army of death. I'm just picturing that the same thing with like the butterflies. It's like my butterfly army of death.
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh, I'm always the
Yeah.
tank in Terraria, always. It's
Well,
it's just so much fun.
well, that's the thing again. Like I said, Terraria just kind of became overshadowed with, with Minecraft. A lot of these games, and frankly, it kind of happens. Any game that becomes popular at the time, i.e., what's the word I'm looking for here? And Minecraft was a big thing back in the early 2000s. I mean, the number of this is my Minecraft Let's Play, and with terrible mic quality and everything, was
Yeah,
staggering.
yeah. Even I had a few series in Minecraft with terrible mic audio.
And then the Outcasts come in, they do their own thing, and then
And then
they
it
turn
explodes.
exactly they turned Minecraft into um, a media empire, so to speak.
They made a
Because then
story.
yeah, that's
Like,
what made people watch them.
Minecraft and Terraria are very similar in the fact that there is no story. You can build your own. Just like with Terraria, it's boss fights. Lots and lots of boss fights. But you can come up with your own story as to why you're there, why there's boss fights, like what's going on. There's a lot of really cool adventure maps too.
Yes, but the
Rite of
no,
passage
excuse
for many streamers is Minecraft.
me.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing to keep in mind as well is that Minecraft, Minecraft made um, a lot of people popular, a lot of individuals quite famous, and amongst them was, of course, the Outcasts. Because what they did was they turned they gave it a story, and then that story evolved into their own little thing, which was the Shadow of Israfel series. But
Rest
then
in
what wound up
peace.
exactly that got unceremoniously ended at a mid cliffhanger point because of internal reasons and problems, and then it just became kind of a gag, and that was the end of it. Following that, they kind of just branched off, did their own thing afterwards, and Minecraft kind of became like, how do I put it? It's like a setting within. What's the best way I can put it? it became like a setting for their content. Like all their characters
Yeah.
existed within Minecraft, and it was a very it's a very interesting concept. Really. You know, you've got spacemen, and a science engineer, and a dwarf all living together.
Good to know, Ostrich. Good to know.
Is it true that Minecraft multiplayer is ending? I'm not
No.
sure. No? Okay.
No.
All right then. There you go. But yeah, like I said, there's that. They like I said, they made it into their own thing, which is commendable, and a lot of people actually really enjoy the Ozcast when they're doing their own thing. You know, living within the setting, making their own things. I mean, for God's sakes, the Jaffa Factory. Uh,
I was actually hoping you'd bring up Tekkit because I love that. I love other people's side of that series.
well,
Uh,
what I was gonna say is that the Jaffa Factory stuff was the first thing that cemented this new setting for the Ozcast. And then later on, Tekkit came in, which was an evolution of the Jaffa Factory series, and it wound up really kind of cementing this idea that the Oxcast live within the Minecraft setting as characters.
OBS is reconnected.
Okay, good, good.
Thank you. You know,
Uh,
needed.
no, things got mental. It got disconnected. We're back. We're good.
By the way, people, on screen is another one of my favorite stories about Terraria. I had no idea that a boss would change aggro just by you zipping by.
But yeah, like I said, Terraria. Sorry, not Terraria. All those different settings within like Minecraft Tech Ed, everything the Oscast did, it really did cement them as characters within their own universe, especially in Minecraft, and that's what really made it popular. That's what really made people enjoy it. That said, Minecraft has always been a very good what's the word I'm looking for here?
It's always been a very
It's
good tool to tell a story.
well,
Love
its own
visuals.
custom story. I mean, like there's always, you know, that's the wonderful thing about it. It's open ended enough to create your own thing about it, and people really enjoy it. But that's kind of where my gripes with the Minecraft story mode, which is that Telltale style, I'm sorry, Telltale game about Minecraft kind of irks me because you are effectively robbing the core of Minecraft, which is build your own story, and kind of shackling it to a main story in and of itself. That's my issue with it because people will follow the most popular thing, follow the most popular story, etc., etc. And Minecraft was, like I said, very good about establishing that you could create your own story. But then when you shackle Minecraft to a story mode where there is this set story, these set characters, these set events, yada yada yada, people will be drawn more to copy that and kind of add on to it rather than saying, you know what, I want to make this instead, and this is what Minecraft is to me. Again, like I said, that's where my major gripes kind of come in.
Well, funnily enough, there is that problem. People will cling to this. I've looked around. Not a single person has clung to it.
Really?
Yeah, like people enjoy story mode, and they talk about it, but absolutely no one has clung to it because it's its own separate game, and they've acknowledged that.
All right, good, good. Good to see my concerns weren't founded on anything. Well, actually, there was something I did want to bring up when I mentioned, and that is take a look at other games as well that are wildly successful. They'll eventually spawn their own clones as well, or unintentionally,
Yeah.
un- unintentionally spawn their own clones as well. The big one being like way back in the day, the countless Resident Evil clones that were a thing. You know, you had like what was it? Deep Fear, uh, Below Zero, the things of that nature. These random Resident Evil clones not made by Capcom that people wound up creating, and they were just these wild, crazy ideas. You know, copying the oh god, what's the word? The spirit of Resident Evil, but not actually understanding what made the game popular or interesting to begin with. And you know, that was that back in the day. Nowadays, we have the countless Souls clones that have come out because people are like, oh, it's just like Dark Souls except X Y Z, or it's just like this because da, 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 da. And what's the word? And that kind of comes into effect of you know what winds up spawning from it. You know, you got your Sekiros, you got um, the Lords of the Fallen, just all these various copycat games that kind of fail to understand what makes Dark Souls worth playing or worth going through. In fact, there was actually something I wanted to put on the topics, but I didn't go through. Didn't go for it because I thought we had already covered it, and that was, you know, can a cartoony aesthetic help compel a very interesting story? And I believe we did cover that actually.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. But what I wanted to bring up is that Code Vein is what's the word? Code Vein is a weird beast, which is it has extremely or quasi realistic high definition stuff to it, like armors and clothing and things of that nature. But it has an anime character designs, like human characters, like they look like they just walked off the screen of any generic anime of the time. And it's a weird contrast, and I'm not sure people. I haven't heard anyone saying it bothers them that much. Well, I've heard like others are like, I can't go through with this, or I can't do anything with it, basically. Again, like I said, it's weird. The game hasn't come out yet, I think. Code Vein. I don't think it came out yet. But like I said, when it does, you know, I'll be sure to cover the game specifically because I want to see what's going on about it. But that's about it, really. Anyway, speaking of all this, let's actually get into the topics, I suppose. So we kind of like went off on our own little tangent there.
It's fine. Like talking about like Starbound, Terraria clones, stuff like that. There are so many side-scroller games that they're out there that people compare to Starbound or Terraria. But the thing is, like, a lot of these games actually do kind of work together in their own way. In Terraria, during the Halloween event, you have a chance to get a creeper costume from Minecraft, which is very, very funny because you still look like a dick, but with arms. A very square one. There's a game that Bill kept playing called Signs of Life, I believe. It is a very weird game, like, personally to me, because of the way it's graphicked. You're a fully bendable human model on a 2D scroller. One of your bosses is a mechanical chicken. And another is just a giant chicken. And at one point, you fight the Terminator, who is basically a Skeletron. He animates the exact same way as Skeletron. And the reason is, the developers of this game are friends with the people behind Terraria, Relogic, and they work together with it.
Interesting.
I will have to look through, like, Starbound's pages to see if there's anything that's a reference to something else. There likely is.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
Anyway, yeah, let's get into topics.
Right, so let's get up the list. Right, so tonight's topics are again, it's been a slow news week outside of E3 and what's been going on with Cyberpunk. And yeah, so first topic is we're talking about arcade cabinets. Are game devs going back to the old style of games as a retro callback? I don't particularly think so. Alien Armageddon, an odd little alien game with some interesting Xenos, but most uncomfortable guns in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Devil May Cry 3 remake for iPhones looking good, but worries are still abound. Talking about the most broken game ever, Vampire Rain. Trust me, I've got a lot to say about that game. And should more game franchises break off into different forms of media if it's directly directed by the original creators? I think we've covered this before, but this is more like a kind of a follow-up to it, and what ifs, really. So yeah, let's talk about sudden resurgence of retro cabinets. So a little while ago, doing a bit of research into this beforehand, I noticed that a lot of game, game developers, game creators, and everything, have suddenly decided to go back and start re-releasing certain games in arcade cabinet form. And one of them, actually, is what's the word? One of them is Enter the Gungeon, actually getting a full-on arcade cabinet re-release, which I find incredibly strange. Like we've all seen the digital Devolver Digital cover on that, which was basically the hostess insulting everybody and calling fans stupid, as part of the gag and everything. What?
Just I've already forgotten his name, but he's shown up on Co-optional a few times with the red sunglasses. Just
All right.
his gripes with how game developers treat people.
Oh, Jim Sterling. Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the problem with Jim. He's a dick. No, basically, actually, since you brought him up, there is something worth covering. People are kind of getting pissed off with Jim, and that's because he's kind of like been slowly moving away from what he should be doing, which is game advocacy for the consumer, and more like, you know what, fuck the people. Which, Jim, you're slowly committing, what's the word? You're slowly committing career suicide here. Maybe shut up, take 5 minutes to cool off, eat a biscuit, and then come back when when your hissy fit's over. Yeah, cool.
Stop pretending you're a prophet.
Yeah.
That was still my favorite animated episode.
The Church of Jim.
It's really painful still to talk about Co-optional.
Yeah, but like I said, the man has the ego the size of his own body. That's saying something. Again, he doesn't miss out on any meals. But anyway. A point being, Digital Devolver showed that they are actually making a fully functional, fully released Enter the Dungeon a game, which is it has the little guns attached to the machine and everything, little pistols, which is an interesting idea, different from Enter the Gungeon, because that's more. Enter the Gungeon is more like over top down, combat thing, where this is more like a first person shoot 'em up, really. Again, points for creativity, and it really does make the game a bit more interesting if you're actually shooting these rather absurd monsters in the face. Like the Beholder with 100 guns. Because why the fuck? Why not? One eye, many arms, many guns. Fine.
That is very much what a Beholder is.
There you go. It's
Like,
perfect.
in D&D, beholders are absolutely terrifying to deal with. Because the center, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't like this. Like, the center is a cone of anti-magic. If it looks at you, you can't cast spells. Which is terrifying because the majority of D&D is about casting spells. Each individual stalk has a different laser beam. One of them is disintegration, one of them is fear, one of them is petrification. It's terrifying.
Which is funny because the Enter the Gungeon version just has a bunch of different chants.
So,
Like there's an Uzi, there's a laser gun, there's a Mass Effect pistol, a rocket launcher, for some fucking reason.
so each gun is a vague reference to what it does in D&D. Uh, it's like the knife wielding tentacle.
Exactly. If anyone wants to come and turn it off, that's fine by me. Yeah, but
Oh my god.
that's interesting. And not only that, but a little recently, House of the Dead even got a new arcade game. I say recently, it's like actually, you know what? I'll look it up real quick just to be sure I'm not being wrong about it. House of the Dead, no. Dead. Okay, let's see. Scarlet Dawn.
I keep getting like suggestions for Terry Crews when I search Terraria.
Jesus
Even
Christ.
after I've
Terry.
even after I've put in the A, it'll still ask if I want that instead.
Okay, here we go. So the new House of the Dead game, Scarlet Dawn, came out September of last year, September 13th.
Mm-hmm.
And people are really enjoying it. And I've actually I've gone through the game, and holy shit, is it insane. So first things first to mention, the entire game is completely like for like super HD detailed, insane, right? It's story wise, it doesn't take itself too seriously. It is still a fried ball of cheese, but nowhere near the level um, of the other House of the Dead game for the Wii, which is okay. Like we all know that that version of the House of Death was, you know what? Let's take everything and just make it into the most insane shit humanly possible. It's fine, basically. This one takes itself slightly more seriously with some not so, not so insane aspects, but it's still some good fun. That said, I need to mention this. There are random scream zombies, and I mean scream as in the guitarist.
Oh no.
Yeah, I found that weird because it's not like a one-off enemy or something you'll face quickly. No, it's like flat out, here's a bunch of scream zombies. There you go. Again, it's just comical to say the least. But the game itself is interesting. It pushes its own hardware, like game hardware, and it's like you'll enter a room and suddenly like 30 zombies will actually pile into the room with you, and you have to like gun them down before they knock you to the floor. Which again, House of Dead's always been good at. They're like, you know what? Let's fill the entire thing with fucking zombies. And they did it. But that's the thing. I've heard good things from people, especially those who can that they've got a lot of money to burn and can get the game to go through everything, and that's fine. At most, it's like got 4 or so chapters to it, all with varying bosses to them, which I actually kind of like. The gun you actually use in that isn't a pistol; it's a machine gun, like right out the gate. Which again, it's like most zombie games, the machine gun is like the ultimate. Let's shoot all the zombies, special weapon. But here, it's just kind of like, you know what? Here, take it first. Need it. Which again, I'm fine with completely. But that's the thing. This new house it looks beautiful. Like I won't mince words here. It looks absolutely amazing. Like I'll just put this up here, like a perfect comparison showing one of the old bosses from the first game versus what they wound up creating now for this game. And again, it's really night and day.
Whoa.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it? And they've taken obvious.
Here is death. Have fun. Thank you, Ostrich.
Yes, but that's the thing. Like House of the Dead has taken or this one's taken some influences. How some of the creatures are, how they come to be, etc., etc.
Influences from what?
Resident Evil. At least when it comes to like creature design or reasons these enemies exist, yada yada yada. That's kind of fun. Except right to the what?
Okay, so I've explained to you guys about when I went to see Godzilla. We went to my old work.
Yeah.
And where we played the Alien game. That's the next topic. The game before that was House of the Dead.
Oh.
And it annoyed the shit out of me. That in the most antique candy crane game everybody has ever known, the one with the weird clown on the front, and it always talks. But whenever I had to stand at the podium to tear tickets and point where people needed to go, I would always be stuck watching the House of the Dead little trailer that plays over and over and over. All while hearing the happy clown on the other side of the room giggle and talk about winning as the guy is being torn apart by a zombie.
Mood whiplash. But that's the thing I'm trying to get at, is that this latest House of the Dead is incredibly interesting. I mean, its story, as what little it has, is also trying to tie back to the previous game. I think the fourth one. So technically, this is the fifth entry in the series, at least chronologically. It's just right at the end, they just gave up with the pseudo-realistic science behind like the enemies and everything, and the final boss is basically just Satan. No explanation given. He's just there. Have fun. Which seems to be kind of a bit of a recurring theme between all the House of the Dead games. The boss just doesn't. The final boss makes no fucking sense to the rest of the game. They just said, you know what? Let's put Satan here, and they back. Which, by the way, I find hilarious how you beat. Like, he's this massive flesh skeleton tree god thing. And you can't shoot him. You have to, like, gun him down, like, just hurt him slightly. And then at some point, one of the characters says, you know what? I'm going to take this piece of destroyed support pillar and throw it at the fucking thing. And it gets lodged in his crown of thorns. And then lightning hits him and kills him. And then immediately the character, because apparently the male protagonist was the brother of the previous male protagonist who died. And so they have this big to-do about like how the spirit of his brother came to save them one last time. Some bullshit like that. And I'm looking at
this entire boss fight description just sounds like something from D&D.
Yeah, but I'm sitting there and my immediate thought is, bullshit, your brother came down to save. It was a fucking lightning strike. There was a fucking storm. Stop accrediting forces of nature to some mystical otherness.
The artist, God.
It's just so stupid.
Yeah.
But that's the thing I'm getting at. It's like these games are suddenly, or sequels to popular games or concepts are suddenly getting arcade cabinets, and there's a sudden resurgence in the popularity of the arcade cabinet, which I find odd.
I am very hopeful for Area 51 then.
But that's kind of the thing I'm getting at. I'm wondering why the sudden push now. Everybody knows that arcades are dying. They're a dying concept to begin with. You know, not a lot of people will go out and spend the hard-earned money they work for on an arcade cabinet. Yeah, on an arcade cabinet that is designed by nature to be unfair and rob you of your money, basically. And then, most people would rather just play a fun game at home without the worry of, okay, I have to stop playing now because I've run out of nickels. Versus this,
Because
and I'm wondering,
retro? Yeah. Like, the funny thing is, whenever I would watch, what is it? MTV's Cribs? Something like that? A lot of
mm-hmm.
the celebrities that they showed, like Fez from that 70s show, has an arcade cabinet in his house. It does not take money. Uh, Jack Black's YouTube video, he has an arcade cabinet. It doesn't take money. Celebrities and people who are well-to-do usually have arcade games in their own houses that don't take money. And nowadays, you can play these arcade games online too.
Yeah, which also defeats the point of, but it's.
Yeah.
I love nostalgia games. Like, yeah, okay, emulate. It's
So,
right there.
uh, an arcade game that I really liked watching, not playing, was Metal Slug. Anybody remembers that?
Yeah, I remember that.
I could actually go upstairs right now and look at Metal Slug's game package for our Wii. Because we own it now. We don't need an arcade cabinet for it.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point I'm getting at here. There is no point in
Mm-hmm.
in these companies suddenly putting wasting time and resources building arcade machines, which are already an investment sink because half of that money that they're making, goes to the people who own the store or own anything of that nature.
Yep.
And even then, even if you get like $100 a day from people, at the most you're getting like $50 back for the entire day, because again they have to get a cut too. The problem at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that could factor into it. It mostly just feeds into like
What is it?
uh it mostly just feeds into people's like sense of curiosity or wonder or their imagination. Wreck-It Ralph is a movie all about arcade cabinets. All about arcade games, and we get to see what they're doing. It's not real, but people still love it.
Yeah, but like I said, my mind just goes, because I'm wondering, is this in response to the fact that loot boxes now have been, regulated to hell and back, effectively?
Yep.
The bills have already gone through. It's passed. From what I heard, the bills already passed. Loot boxes have already been made illegal out here. And I'm wondering, is this in response to that? Are they now trying to revitalize the arcade cabinet because now they can't supplement their income anymore with loot boxes? And now they're like, shit. We need to recover all that profit we were stealing from children. Quick, reintroduce the arcade machines.
It could also be nostalgia's sake, because I can't go 5 to 6 minutes around generally older people or people of my generation who will not shut the fuck up about arcade games.
But that's the thing. Back in the day, arcade games brought people together too.
Yeah.
You got to keep that in mind.
Oh yeah.
And ignoring certain idiots. There was also even a huge thing about the arcade cabinet and how there were competitions, tournaments, things of that nature. And that's the weird thing. Arcade cabinets still have that sense of friend building. Because it's not about the game at the end of the day. It's about the experience you have with a buddy. Especially when you're like shooting up zombies or something of that nature, and then you rip on your friend for being a suck. Not sucking at the game, not being terrible, being a suck. And like I said, that's the point I'm making. There is an inherent power in the arcade machine. It has the ability to bring back that ancient waves of nostalgia, but that's about it. There's not much else to it.
Thanks, Ostrich.
What?
With from Ostrich. With all due respect, I'll believe the "we need to stop loot boxes" when EA gets on board.
It's never gonna happen.
No.
EA makes half of its entire income off. You know what? Actually, let me look it up. I'm gonna check and see if that bill did pass,
Yeah.
or if it's still being like. Let's see here.
By the way, this entire time, I've had a video muted showing 20 Easter eggs in Starbound that reference other pop culture things.
Oh my god. So, okay, I was wrong. The battle is still ongoing, and EA is still fighting tooth and nail to keep it alive, i.e., give us the right to tax and kill people as we want. And apparently, this is a quote, and EA Vice President said prefers to call the loot boxes are actually surprise mechanics that are quite ethical. What? You stupid idiot. Oh no, it's not gambling. It's fun. It's interesting. It's like, fuck you. You're predilating on people's impulses. It's not ethical.
Nope.
You stupid idiot.
Thank you, YouTube. Video output is low. Okay.
You know what? He has basically single-handedly made his stance worse because people are now going to turn against you out of spite, motherfucker. You idiot. Had you shut the fuck up and just let it roll, maybe some people would have been sympathetic to you. No, you just have to open your mouth for stupid. You can't read this kind of stupidity. It just happens. But yeah, so back to the point. Like I said, these games are they have the power to bring back nostalgic feelings and kind of bring back the days when being being fun or being interesting and coming up with the insane ideas for some ridiculous game premise, Yeah. And honestly, I don't mind it. I actually rather enjoy these silly little things, which is my attempt at a segue to Alien Armageddon. So, for those of you who don't know, Alien Armageddon is a arcade game that it's been around for a while, hasn't it?
It has, but I haven't been able to tell. Because the first time I saw it was literally when I went to see Godzilla.
I'm going to check right now, just to see when it was released, so we can get like a good idea. Let's say Aliens Armageddon, 2017. I've got conflicting reports. Let's go with the AVP fan. Okay, here we go. 2014. Jesus. It's been around for a while. All right, that's not bad. But so let's get into it. So the game is set during the xenomorph invasion of Earth, which is it's a big thing in the comics where Weyland-Yutani just they fucked it up so bad the alien. Good job, Wei. You had one job.
Yep.
And the game is set during the invasion. It's a big situation. The game only has 4 chapters, actually. And they're actually rather short, really. Which is, again, it's interesting, but kind of like, why, Art style is, I hate to say it, it's like pseudo-Borderlands, and because it makes all the xenomorphs look oddly cartoonish and less threatening somehow. And I just don't like that. It's like, fuck you, Yeah, but anyway, the point being is that it's set during the xenomorph invasion. you play random space marine or random what's the word? Colonial marine who doesn't have a name, and for some reason can't keep a hold of his fucking gun. Like well, that's the funny thing. There are moments in this game where you will be running away from the xenomorphs, and then someone somewhere will throw you a gun, or you'll pick up a random colonial marine gun and start shooting up the xenomorphs, right? So at one moment, maybe you're shooting your pulse rifle. The next thing you know, you're swapping out for a shotgun against the xenomorphs in close range. What the fuck? Why would you do this? But that's kind of the point I'm getting. He'll hold on to the shotgun for a few minutes, then throw it away for some reason, and then go back to his pulse rifle. And then at another point, you will pick up random smart guns, and you think, okay, this is a good idea. I'll hold on to this and just keep playing. No, he'll just get rid of it for no reason. Why? Why do you hate these guns, random space marine?
It's also so hard to hold those guns.
Oh yeah, the guns are attached to the arcade cabinet, but they by wire, so it's you can grab them and use them like a regular gun, which is all right. It's just these things are incredibly uncomfortable to use because the stock is like it's hollow. It has lights to signify player 1, player 2, and it's just not comfortable to rest against your shoulder or anything.
Not only that, like when you press any buttons, it vibrates and makes noise. And
yes, which can be very distracting.
we did not get very far, my brother and I, with that game. We got as far as getting onto the truck and being chased by the big guy.
Yes, the weird.
And then we got knocked over, and I died because I was actually hitting the aliens like I was supposed to. But it was really hard to hold the guns. So I was just kind of flailing a little bit, unable to aim.
Yeah.
And then my brother died to a royal facehugger.
Which, again, you mentioned all these aliens. I bring this up. This game has a few xenomorph variations, and all of them are actually based off of the old comics. Like the Royal Xenomorph is based off the old comic book line. You have the giant serpent chest burster, which is just a chest burster that basically doesn't mature into a xenomorph. It takes the same size, but it remains snake-like. You have spider xenomorphs, which I found very strange. But a welcome strange. You know, they act like the spitters of the game. Yeah. You have regular xenomorphs, and then this is something weird I didn't quite understand. There's a xenomorph that comes in like an asteroid, and you fight on the ground. It's like this weird creature with like a heavily mutated back, and it shoots like spikes at you. Mm-hmm. And I have no idea what that xenomorph is. I think that was like made specifically for the game.
The entire time my brother and I were playing, it was just like a repeated, like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? Like every time something new that he has never seen before. He has never seen before. Like we're watching one of the cutscenes and we see a xenomorph fly overhead. Mm-hmm. And he's demanding to know what the hell all this stuff is.
Well, that's another thing to mention. That later in the face, like the flying xenomorph subspecies, but you'll also find flying facehuggers, which again was the thing. It's some of these xenomorphs and the subspecies are results of like the environment for the xenomorph. Like basically, okay, there's not a lot of hosts for this region, so they have to mutate, they have to evolve, yada yada yada. Again, which is fine. It's a welcome change. It's just, it can be quite distracting and confusing to someone who hasn't experienced.
Yeah.
And again, that's fine.
My brother, so far, he's read books and he's seen the movies, and that's it.
Well, another thing to note as well is that I think there was a mess up in the game because a lot of times you will wind up fighting with this random marine, right? and he will act like your friend and or buddy and just always toss you more grenades, more guns, more etc. And the thing is that there's a problem with the game. Every Marine shares the same human model. There's very little to no deviation, and I think that was a mistake that they intended to correct, but they never did. And so a lot of times I'll see this guy who's like supposed to be my best friend and like fighting with me die, only to have the game spawn another guy identical to him who will throw me the random grenades to throw at xenomorphs. And it's really distracting. The story of this game is almost non-existent. The main point is you are last arc from leaving Earth so humanity can survive and live on away from like the infested Earth, basically. And while that happens, you are desperately fighting your way back into the space, and you see all these different xenomorphs, and you're constantly being chased by this gigantic I don't even think it's a Praetorian. I think it's like what's the word? I think it is Praetorian, but it's also like a Praetorian mixed in with a what's it called? With a Crusher from Colonial Marines. Mm-hmm. I think that's what's going on. And this thing has the most like I need to murder you vendetta I think I've ever seen.
Are you talking about the big guy that chases you on the truck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I find it funny because it's this one xenomorph is dedicated to no end to see you die.
Yeah, like screw the fact that we need these creatures to grow our hives. Let's just kill this one guy out of billions.
Exactly. It's just he is beelining for your fucking ass. It's like, Christ, what did I do to deserve this? You know?
Beeline for the ass.
Yeah, but that's the thing I'm saying. It's refreshing to have this kind of enemy, and sometimes in the game will slow down, and a targeting regular kill will appear on some point of a big xenomorph's body, and you have to shoot it to stop it from attacking. Yeah. And I find it comical that this gigantic xenomorph, your game nemesis, basically, is getting shot up to hell and just being beat by this dinky little Marine at every fucking turn. And I find it so funny because there's a literal moment where you trip the fucking thing and it falls onto like a canister of explosive material. And I'm watching this and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this thing is our enemy? I feel kind of sad for it now. It's honestly quite funny. But that's the thing. Unfortunately, you don't get to kill the xenomorph. Towards the very end of the game, like mission 3, basically. Yes.
I just now saw Ostrich's comment. I think he was talking about the Marines, the quadruplets: Greg, Jed, Fred, Ted, Jeff, Keg, Zed, and Thomas. Oh, I love it.
Funny.
I love it.
Yeah, it's quite funny. But anyway, you don't get to find Xenomorph Crusher Praetorian, actually, which is weird. Basically, a flying queen, which is like the ultimate queen, basically. Like, established, she's like the most dangerous xenomorph ever to exist because she's airborne all the time. And what winds up happening is for some reason, a flying queen break into the last human sanctuary on Earth, attack the Praetorian, and literally rip it apart in the most like violent way I've ever seen. And then she becomes your nemesis for the rest of the game. And like I said, it's weird because that's the thing. Xenomorphs, that they all, no one hive will be the same. Sometimes xenomorphs will fight with each other, but up until that moment, wasn't any evidence to suggest that belonged to a different hive. All of them seem to be working together. And the moment she murders the Praetorian, the rest of the hive just kind of follows her. Which is weird and a bit unusual. Like I said, this death like comes from left field and kind of robs you of killing it.
I think it's because if we like move away from Xeno and look at more like what we know, ants, bees, colony
Hmm.
made insects around here. A queen of an insect species will butcher a male of the same species if it's from a different hive, even after she's already banged somebody. It's not that it's not necessarily about territory. It's about the best way to describe it, infection. Uh, to this flying queen, this bulky mutant of a Praetorian is an infection. It's not supposed to be in her territory or near her hive, and she is definitely not going to have his babies. She wants it gone. Uh,
Again, the weird thing about it is just that. Well, that's the other thing. This whole situation is that, like I said, it just come. I get where it's happening. Do it's just it's the sudden heel turn is unexpected. Is all. It's like, oh, okay. I guess we're enemies now. All right. Like I said, it's just unusual, is what it is.
uh, yeah, I guess like if this was a FPS shooter game from like Steam, it would be a lot less surprise and confusing. But since it's like supposed to be a very quick 10-minute, 5-minute arcade experience where you're feeding the arcade machine uh,
Hmm.
a quarter a minute, then it's very confusing.
Exactly, and that, like I said, it's sudden, is all it is. I mean, towards the end of the game itself, there's this final push to kind of like get everybody onto the ark and then have the ship leave. And during this moment, the Flying Queen comes down, attacks you, destroys one of the APCs. One of your Marine friends has a grenade launcher. They're just kind of using it to get rid of the xenomorphs. Just keep them at bay long enough for everyone to get on board. She attacks, and then she attacks, winds up hitting the xenos and everything. And my immediate, he gets hurt, like critically injured, is going to die, kind of. And the scene holds on him when he's like dying or in his death throes, and then gives you the grenade launcher he has and say, take her out or blow that bitch's head off or something of that nature. And the whole time I'm wondering, who are you and why should I care? Did we meet at any point?
I think it's more of a sense of brothers in arms.
Well, that's the unfortunate. It could be, but it's clear they wanted to have a Marine following you throughout this entire endeavor, but someone didn't create a what's the word? Someone didn't make a unique model for this Marine that's supposed to be like riding with you throughout this entire endeavor, but they never changed the dialogue or they never changed this scene to reflect the fact that it is another Marine. It treats it like it is the same guy that you've been fighting with from beginning to end. And again, that's the flaw of this kind of setup. It's like, oh, we want a big emotional thing between the player and this Marine that's been giving them weapons and keeping them stocked up on supplies to fight the xenomorphs. And like I said, there is just no. You can't care for this guy because you have no.
Yeah.
Why he gives you the grenade launcher at this point, outside of dying.
Like not only that, just by default when you play an arcade game, you don't feel anything for the NPCs around you
Yes, because
because
they are all gonna die.
they are always going to die.
Yeah, and that's the
They're
unfortunate truth.
Marines.
But that's the other point I'm trying to make as well is that after this, you use the grenade launcher, you blow up the queen's head, which again, kind of a departure from the typical how you kill the queen method. But I'm not complaining. It's different, and I enjoy it. But then after you do that, or actually a little before you do that, actually, let me adjust that. Uh, the arc is closed, and they've left you behind. Flat out, they leave you to die there on Earth. And I'm looking at this, and my immediate thought is, really? Fucking really?
Motherfucker.
You all suck. You know what? Fuck this. I'm leaving. Fuck this place. But no, basically, as the arc is starting to take off, the Queen Xeno's like, the fuck you are, and basically goes to destroy the arcs like engines, bring it down. And if you're not quick enough, she actually will bring the ship down and kill it. But this is where, again, this is the weird part. There is two endings to this game. One where the Xenomorph Queen wins. She flies into the air, she slices the fuel line to one of the engines, the whole thing explodes. The whole thing comes toppling down, and you get crushed by like a section of debris from the ship. And then there's the real ending where you shoot the queen down, you blow part. No, actually, my mistake. You don't blow up her head, but you shoot her down, like you break off one of her wings or something like that. She winds up falling into the pit where the ship was resting, and she gets vaporized by the ship's exhaust as it's leaving the planet. Which again, creative and interesting. You don't see that very often, burning the queen alive.
Yeah. Maybe
Which,
in like the AVP Xbox game.
well, that's what I mean. It's like you don't see that often.
Yeah.
And that was like the outlier of the whole how do you typically kill a queen or just space the bitch. But yeah, that was that's it. They all leave, and they leave you to die on Xenomorph Earth. Have fun dying slowly of starvation if you live through all this. And now you see why I basically said, you know what, fuck this, and didn't shoot the queen and just let her destroy the ship. I was so angry. I just put the gun down and said, nope, I'm done. You can all die. I am that petty. Humanity goes extinct with me because fuck you all. You know, and of course, people try to play it up as, oh, but you sacrificed for you, they're not going to remember you.
You know,
Yeah.
even though, depending how you end the game, even though those people escape Earth, it doesn't mean they're going to escape xenomorphs in general, especially with the Weyland Yutani.
Well, actually, the Armageddon story like I said, it takes place during the time period where the xenomorphs take over Earth, and this is actually a time where Weyland Yutani is like, it's dying, like it's on its last legs, and it segues into the fourth Aliens movie. That's basically how the Armageddon storyline is set up.
Yeah.
Explaining like how Weyland Yutani isn't a thing anymore in the future. Which again, I like that idea.
Yay.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, it's an alright game if you can get past the jank issues and the inconsistent. I'm going to keep throwing you different guns because because variety. It's alright. It's a good 20-minute, 40-minute game, and that's it. There doesn't need to be more about it.
Yep.
It's fine. So yeah, it was Armageddon. It's worth trying out at least once and then calling it a day. So yeah, let's go into the next one, and that is a remake to Devil May Cry 3.
Ooh, for iPhones.
My friend and I, while we were on our way.
Okay, you're cutting out really bad. I want you to leave and come back. Hello.
Right, there we are. Right. Anyway. No, what I said was, are you talking?
No.
Okay, like there's like sound coming in from your end. I'm like, the
The
fuck is
house
that?
guest is home, likely gonna pick up her dogs.
No, it's like a background noise.
AC unit's on behind me.
Ah, okay. But like I said, I was talking to my friend when we were out, and we had gone to this comic shop, which, by the way, um, had a House of the Dead arcade in front of it, like the old 2 one, not the new one, which was kind of funny. Oh, by the way, I want to mention this, that the comic book shop I went to had a bar in the back.
Oh
It
yeah,
was
ours
a
has a cafe.
well, no. Here's the crazy thing. It was designed to be. They call it the Fallout. Or, no. It's like Vault 5427, and it's like a Fallout themed bar. But when you go in, there's nothing to do with Fallout. It's more like, imagine if there was a bar in the middle of the multiverse, and that's basically what it was. There was a beholder in the corner, like drinking. There was a xenomorph hiding in the rafters. You had a bunch of weapons from different places, trophies, a random mutated stag with 2 heads, a berserk sigil written somewhere. It was crazy fun and interesting. And my when I was there, I was like, my immediate thought was, you know what? Someone should make a fan movie here, and just call it the middle of nowhere bar or something.
Yeah.
It was quite fun. I actually took video of it. I will show later. But yeah, so let's get back into it, and that is Devil May Cry 3 getting remade for the iPhone. And I do call it a remake because technically it is a retelling of the Devil May Cry 3 story in full HD. It's just like the Resident Evil 2 remake. It's it looks good. I'm not gonna lie. For what they've shown, it looks very interesting. All the cutscenes are in high definition,
I'm going to
remade.
mute myself real
Mm,
quick because there's people
all right.
walking up and downstairs.
Okay. But yeah, it's a from what I saw, the cutscenes look good. It's all in HD, high quality, very detailed. Look at everyone. You can see this. You can count the hair particles on their head, kind of thing, which is all right. In terms of what they're working for gameplay wise, it looks like it's going to be just like the hack and slashing of Devil May Cry 3, except with simplified like uh, iPhone mechanics. Basically the game auto targets one of the enemies, and then you start pushing a bunch of buttons to do the combos and beat the ever loving fuck out of the enemy. Which is, again, it's not a bad idea. It's all right. It's what it is. It's just peculiar that of all the games, or I'm sorry, it's just peculiar that this game is on an iPhone instead of doing what Capcom does best as of late, apparently, and that is dedicating an entire game to remaking a classic. And honestly, I don't think anyone here would not be happy with a Devil May Cry remake. Especially if it's full HD with super crazy detailed things, and oh, look at that. You can count the number of bullets that Dante's shooting, or look at the nasty details on this demon. Look at the fact that it has this weird pulsating eye in the middle of its face. Ooh, yada yada yada. And again, I just find it peculiar as all. Out of all the possible things you could do, why relegate it to an iPhone? Or why relegate this remake to an iPhone game instead of just, dedicating an entire game to this? I mean, if Devil May Cry 5 proved anything, it's that people want to play Devil May Cry. So why deny a remake on actual like platforms and systems? Why do that? But the more I look at the game, the more it seems to be. You there?
Yeah, hi.
Okay. The more I look at the game, like the trailer, it's like 1 minute and 39 seconds. But the more I look at it, the more it looks like it isn't just a remake of 3, but it also is, it might be a bit more as well. But again, it is still up in the air at this time. Again, I like the character models, I like the concept of the remake, and I'm looking forward to it because, again, as shocking no one in this chat or in the show, the reason why I typically am interested in games like this is because I can't wait for the modders to start ripping the models out
Yeah,
and
yeah, I knew it.
putting them into Gmod so people can do more insane shit with them.
Yeah.
Especially for the DMC 3 Dante, which is he's basically shirtless except the jacket. You know, people want that to no end because people are crazy that way. They can only do so much with a PS2 era model of shirtless Dante.
Oh boy.
But yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to this. I want to see what it is. If it isn't just, if it is a remake and retelling of Devil May Cry 3, that's fine. You know, it won't. It doesn't seem to be too bothersome. It does sound like they're bringing in the same actors to reprise their roles for this one. It isn't just reusing the old dialogue from the previous game. It does look like they're bringing the same actors in just to do something new, which again, fine with that. But it also looks like, based on the very end, where all 3 of the main characters of 3 are charging in towards a demon with 3 glowing fireballs flying at them, it kind of makes me think as well that this isn't just a retelling of Devil May Cry 3, that it also might be a bit more. Like how Final Fantasy has these ridiculous iPhone games, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And oh man, you know those iPhone games. Like what's it called? Bravely Default is what it's called.
I wouldn't know.
Well, you know, all these Final Fantasy spin-off games where they just take,
Oh gods, yeah.
but they just all take the same all the characters from various games, and they just say, you know what? Let's have them all in one setting and just fighting in a totally different story. Doesn't matter if it doesn't make any sense or not. Let's do it anyways. And they never look back.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, I'm not perturbed by the idea. It's just I look at it and my immediate thought is, all right, if you want to dedicate time processors making a ridiculous, what's the word? If you want to dedicate time and money to making this kind of concept, go ahead. I won't stop you. Just keep that shit away from the important stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, so like I said, cautious, very cautious. I want to see where this goes from me. Because as we all know, iPhone games are just glorified. I'm going to steal your money. Because fuck the people.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so let's see. We've got 1, 2, 3. All right, we've got 2 more things. I think we can power through this mostly.
Yeah, it's not too much of a problem. If we disconnect again, though, I might have a bit of a short fuse.
That's fine. All right, let's go ahead and move to the sorry, into the next game on our little list here, and that is Vampire Rain. Have you ever heard of this?
Nope.
It is the most what the fuck game I think I've ever seen, and that is, okay, basic premise. You play as a member of a special forces team sent into a city to eliminate vampires that have taken up are starting to like stalk the cities and have been like they've slaughtered every human basically.
Mm-hmm.
So your job is to just go in, wipe out the vampires, and then maybe people can come back and repopulate the city at a later date. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
That said, these vampires aren't your run-of-the-mill like, oh, I come out at night and meh, meh, meh. These things are like, I take steroids and I run marathons kind of vampires.
Oh, Jesus.
Exactly. And what, how do I put this in the most like kind of way I can. The game is fucking broken. Basically, these vampires are like the most lethal creatures on Earth in this setting. And the only way people can stand a chance is if it rains, because apparently rain dulls their senses and reaction times just enough to take them out. Well, just water in general, basically. This game is infamous because it is so fucking broken. No one has ever gotten past the first level. And that's because the game has a broken stealth system, which is the focus of the game. Like, where most games is like, oh, take out the enemy now, shoot him, shoot him, shoot him. Most of the game is focused around avoiding the enemy at all costs. Except it doesn't matter, because even if you move out of line of sight, if you take one step off the path you're supposed to be taken, even if like the vampire's looking at you, it's gonna beeline for you and just murder you within a second. And this isn't even like hyperbolic. This isn't even like an exaggeration. No, these vampires will like go from 5 to 1,000 in a second and murder you the second you arrive at the. Hold on a second.
Fine. Oh, by the way, people, we're not doing monthlies this month. Mostly because I don't care to do that this time. Two of my least favorite times of the year is November and the beginning of summer, if not July.
And I'm back.
Hi.
Right. So what I was getting at was these vampires go from 0 to 100 within a second, and it's blatantly unfair. Like I'm trying to find a GIF of this just to prove a point. It's incredibly broken, to say the least, and it's just like at this point you might as well not play the game, because it's unfair, is what it is. The story, by the way, is a fried ball of cheese, which. Okay, here we go. So this is like, it's retardedly like absurd, but like this is a good way of showing how the game is. There we are. Like, look how fast that fucker is going.
What is happening?
Exactly. So the person being thrown is the player. Look at the life gauge. Like the brief when it's there.
Oh my
Look how
God.
quickly that drains. And that is the vampire just leaping in and butchering the poor player.
Wow. I'm not putting that
Not
on the
only,
stream, by the way.
it's fine. And your gun does jack and shit to kill vampires. Like, they have a life bar. So naturally you think, okay, let me shoot the vampire a bit and like take it out. No. You shoot it, it's like not even a quarter. Okay, like, you know how like sometimes in Warframe you go up against like these retardedly high leveled enemies,
Yep.
and then you shoot them and it's not even like a pit of damage. It's pitiful.
Yep.
Same thing, except it's every enemy in this game. Who thought this was a good idea? Who sat there and said, you know what, this is fine. I want names. I need names to punch this person in the face. And like I said, so the game story is a fried bowl of cheese, which is like there's two vampires who have existed from the dawn of time, and they want to procreate with each other, but they can't for some reason. So they have to spread their species through bites. And the vampires can act like a human, but when situations happen, like the weather changes or something of that nature, they lose control and they become more, more bestial by nature.
I
And
remember,
it's
I don't remember the name of the movie. It was a vampire movie where
mhm.
humans are so extremely rare that they're captured and contained and used like cows just for their blood. and vampires would like drive around in cars that have no windows, but they have like screens that let the driver see what's ahead of them. And at one point, I remember coming downstairs and seeing my dad, of course, watching this movie, and of course, it's on the Sci-Fi Channel. I just know that Dr. Grant from Jurassic Park is in this movie.
Okay.
But I come downstairs and there's like this Batman thing, this freaky beast of a vampire, splattered on the floor of a house with a ring on his finger. Turns out he was a gardener. But he lost control of himself, mutated, and went ballistic.
Yeah, okay. That's basically what these vampires, like, weather or feeding frenzies, or just in general anything will set them off. The best way to like describe it is like 1 second they look like a normal person, the next they like transform into like a Van Helsing kind of monster. You know, the disguise is gone, but humanity is still there. You just have to really look at it. But that's basically what happens, and then the protagonist's team basically gets wiped out because they're betrayed, and then it turns out his commanding officer becomes a vampire, so you have to kill him by like shooting the fire extinguishing system in the room to weaken him and then take him out. And then you go after this head vampire who does this much to do about like how he's been around for centuries, how he and this girl he really liked wanted to start their lives in the mountains at the snowy peaks, like go to like the mountains, go to a frozen mountain and spend the rest of their days there. And because he was like a born vampire or something stupid like that. But because he was a born vampire, he's sun resistant, and so is she. But they never made it to the mountain because reasons. And he's basically lived so long, he's just kind of accepted the fate that his species his species is born from him and just will die from him. There's no sustaining it. Like he's just kind of said, you know what, fuck this gay earth.
Oh wait a minute. I have something to give you then. Let's see, do I have it in my files? No, but I think I have it in my favorites.
Alright.
There it is.
Exactly. That's basically how he just gives up at the end of the entire game. The protagonist just shoots him, and it's heavily implied like this is the end of the species. Like there's not going to be any more after this. And I'm just sitting there and wondering, did they know? Did they know that this game was going to be so terrible that they just decided to end it here? Did they know? Was this like secretly part of their plan? Just fuck this, we're done. I mean, if it was, at least they're At least they're self-aware enough to realize this game isn't going to get a sequel. Might as well end it here while we're at it.
Yep. And then there's like some games where the developers think this is going to be the only sequel. We're going to end it here. People love it so much that they decide to abolish what they said and attempt a sequel that either goes very well or very, very, very poorly.
A perfect example is the Prototype game. Prototype 1 was like meant to be a definitive end. The hero becomes the virus, and that's it. There's nothing to do. And then they made a sequel, and that basically killed the entire franchise. Mm-hmm. Before it even got off the ground. Same with Infamous. So that was more like setting up for a sequel, so it doesn't really count. But the second game was a definitive end. And then they made a third game which nullifies the second game. That's fuck it. Yeah, but like I said, it is the most like broken game I think I've ever seen, and no one out there has ever been able to beat this game legitimately. Like they always have to use breaks or exploits or anything of that nature just to beat this fucking game, and I can't blame them. because this game is so obnoxiously, brutally difficult that I don't think anyone would in their right mind, would sit there and say, you know what, I'm going to have fun with this game. Oh my god. What's this? You know, outside of like people who play Dark Souls because they think it's fun.
I
It's
mean,
like, it's not.
some people do find it fun, though.
Yeah, in the same sense of, I'm going to smash
In the
because
sense
that's fun.
of, this is challenging, and I want to test my reflexes.
When the AI isn't broken, that is, or doing cheap ass moves.
Yep.
Yeah. But like I said, that basically covers Vampire Reign. It is a weird gem of its time and should be remembered as the most broken thing ever. But it isn't. Here's the funny thing: it's not the most broken game in human existence.
Would that be Sonic
But it's
06?
no, actually, there's another game that's even more broken than that. Have you ever heard of something called Mind Jam?
Oh god.
Uh, it's basically, to sum it up, you know how they're doing that whole Watch Dogs Legion thing where basically you'll jump from human to human?
Yep.
You know? That's basically Mind Jam. Except it's more broken. The AI doesn't exist. One of the enemies, actually, will break. Actually, here's an image of it. That's a perfect way to describe it. One of the bosses is broken, where if you walk up right next to the fucking thing, it will shoot its own feet and hurt itself. How do I stop this human that's standing in front of me? Oh,
I know, I'll just shoot it when it's right up against me.
no, it won't even shoot you when you're right up against it. It'll just keep shooting the floor because that's how broken it is. Another mechanic of this game is the ability to jump between human bodies, right? But here's the thing, there is no limit to who you can jump to. So it's entirely possible for you to jump to like a 13-year-old girl in the level, and then suddenly she'll pull out a machine gun and start killing people. That is not an exaggeration. Every person you jump to will suddenly spawn a machine gun to fight.
Oh my gosh.
It's incredibly funny. I love the idea that all these people are running away, forgetting they're packing heat. Oh man! But that's the other thing. The enemy variety is all right. I like some of the design. For some reason, there are monkeys, like cyborg monkeys, and guys in like these obnoxiously designed sci-fi super suits that are just like, you know what? I'm going to wear a fishbowl on my head today because I feel like being different. And it's just
most people, when they play Terraria, going back to that, like, the first thing some people do is craft the fish bowl and wear it as a hat.
yeah, but that's more to be silly. This feels more like I need to be different from my peers. I'm going to wear a giant bowl on my face. Of course, they have like cyborg gorillas too, which I mean, it's a creative idea, and it looks like something out of Metal Gear Rising.
Yeah,
It's
you can
just
tell by the
why.
graphics.
But my immediate thought is like, why? You know, why the monkeys? Why are these random people packing heat?
Yeah, why is this 12-year-old girl carrying a submachine gun?
Exactly. What is wrong with this world?
Actually,
This game is
people
actually.
in the chat, please do not answer that. Please.
But no, here's the other funny thing too. This game also has a rather infamous moment in the story where, about halfway through, like, okay, let me put it to you this way: you have the ability to mind jack people from the get go. You can actually like start it the moment the missions and everything starts, right, or the game starts. Like, it's not a power locked ability, but infamously, at some point in the game, and we're talking like midway through the story, like when things start shifting, when the answers start coming in, the female your partner you're with will turn to the male protagonist and ask, "Tell me, do you know what mind jacking is?" And I'm sitting there, and my immediate thought is, wait. We've been doing this ability from the word go, and this guy has no idea what being able to take over another person's mind is like? What? Well, how do you explain people suddenly turning on their lifelong allies and just gunning them down on the spot?
Oh boy.
Are you convinced that we're telling them really nicely, hey, you should betray your best friend, and they're just doing it? What is wrong with you?
What the fuck?
It's like I said, I'll do a proper Revs review when I get the chance to, like, if I want to torture myself, proper Revs review, sit down and go through the fucking game. I'll do that.
Yeah.
But for right now, this game has lived in infamy as being the most broken full retail game in existence, made by Square Enix, by the way.
Oh, jeez, no wonder.
It's made by Squeenix.
It's no wonder that one voice line. Do you know what mind jacking is? Why, that exists.
Yep. Wait until like 10 years later when they do the Final Fantasy crossover event. It's gonna happen, and it's gonna be equally confusing because Squeenix.
You know what's annoying to me?
Mm.
Whenever I'm watching YouTube lately, an ad will play. At the very end of the ad, it'll show like a scene from the newest Final Fantasy game with chocobos.
Mm-hmm.
I have gotten so used to that noise that I now hate going outside for longer than 5 seconds. Because it's bird chirping and wings flapping on chocobos.
Which, again, makes sense. It's a giant ostrich.
Personally, my favorite chocobo is the fat chocobo. He's so fat.
You know, to do a callback, it's like, sir, there's a man running down the street and it's like the fucking ostrich?
Oh god, that one, yeah.
Or my favorite bit of that whole thing when Lord Trek says, if a stupid ostrich can go through a loop-de-loop, so can we. He immediately drives off the edge of the loop-de-loop. Solaire, I knew it. And Lord Trek just shouting, damn ostrich! I love that thing so much. If I could find a gif of it, I would. Jesus. But yeah, so that was the most broken game in the universe, Mindjack. And now we come into the...
I didn't know this about the fat chocobo, but it can fly. To get the fat chocobo to run, you have to hold one of those little cabbage things in front of it. But to get it to fly, you have to give it cake. It has to chase cake to fly.
Come, eat of this cake. I guess it's motivated.
Yeah. It would definitely need some motivation. Jesus. But, like, Cozy and I love this thing.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Because the song that plays is the Chocobo theme, but it's, like, a very drunk-sounding tuba version of the Chocobo song.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, let's move on to the next.
Right, and that is, so again, I think we've covered this topic before, but it still holds some amount of weight to it, and that is, should game franchises really break off from games if the original creators are like behind it?
In what way? Exactly.
Okay, so let's use Warframe as a... Let's say that DE decides they want to make their micro movie about Warframe, story that leads into the game proper. Should that, if they do that, right? Do you think that's a good idea, or do you think they're wasting time and resources they could be putting into the game for something else, basically, like some other aspect of the game.
It would be a good idea, but it would also kind of take away the curiosity and kind of the enjoyment of the game currently.
Mm.
I guess like this is like another topic that just goes, it depends on the game. It depends on the genre. It depends on the series that they go with. Because some companies have done this and they did a great job. Others, not so much.
Well, people always point to the Final Fantasy movies as like they're polarizing. Like some people say they're the greatest things ever. Others say it's terrible because this, and this. It's very weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see why some people would say that. For me, though, I think it's a good idea for DE to expand into other media for Warframe, specifically because Warframe is it's clear that DE wants to pursue other stories within Warframe, but they oftentimes have to focus on stories that will draw people in. A perfect example of this is, Corrupted Vor. What happened to him? Why is he no longer a thing? He's still alive in the game and its story, but it's clear that DE hasn't had the time or the resources to fleshing out his story any further, even though they would likely want to. Same goes for other aspects of Warframe's story, like explaining some of the Syndicate's more unusual aspects, or even smaller details that have been nagging at people's psyche for some time, like where are the rest of the Orokin reliquaries, or is this like this? What about the other colonies that they set up? Actually, in the comics too, like where are the other colonies? Yada yada yada. And that's the thing. I don't think if DE did more, what's the word? If DE did more stories outside of Warframe, it would detract from the game. A perfect example is, the Shattered comics, when DE dedicated a whole prologue comic to a quest that was coming out. Perfect example being, we learn more about Dr. Tengus and how Vahek becomes what he is. That doesn't really detract from his character. It kind of adds to it, really.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. The same thing goes to other things, like Mass Effect, for example. That is a setting where its story is humongous, huge to begin with. It's a literal galaxy. And so it benefits extraordinarily well from having, from having other stories outside the example is the Mass Effect anime. If you've ever seen that is.
Nope.
The Mass Effect anime is, just as the name implies, it is an anime. Like, I'm not even like saying, oh, it's an animated movie. It's literally anime. And what happened is that in the anime follows James Vega and his story of and the story he tells Shepard in Mass Effect 3, which is basically, hey, I had this squad, we got attacked by the Collectors, and I did some dumb calls and I got everybody killed. And you see that and that whole thing holds its own story, and you see it all unfold throughout the course of this hour-long movie. And it works. That said, I also have to say this, James, you're an idiot. He gets everyone killed because he's thinking with his dick, by the way.
Oh, no.
Okay, so to give context, right? The Collector ship is full of colonists. Like, everyone from the colony has been resurrected from the pods and are inside the ship. But the ship's power is offline, and it's falling back to the planet's atmosphere. Meanwhile, the Collectors have ejected a stasis pod with James Vega's love interest, which is an Asari, and she has data on the collectors. And then both of these choices are presented to James, like save the colonist or save the data. Which will it be? And he chooses the data. But when I'm seeing this, my immediate thought is, you were thinking with your dick the whole way through. Don't lie to me and say what's for the data. And again, it's horrifying because you see this entire thing unfold and you watch it and you're like, fuck, no. It's so sad. The feels. It's so horrible.
Like, honestly, can anybody name one time where following your dick led to something good? And I'm not talking about, like, movie stories, because those always end good, half the time.
I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think, really. I can't think of a time where that's worked. I really can't. At this point, anyways.
I technically can, but I'm not so sure about it.
Okay.
Knack. The first Knack game.
Oh, there you go.
By the way, I've seen, like, the cutscene movie of that game. It's really, really weird, because they don't add the in-between fleshing bits, so the interactions are always very janky. But at one point, like, the professor is, like, about to fall off a rope down to the earth below because he's on an airship, and he gets a message from a woman he was in love with years ago saying she needs helping. Suddenly he can climb like a motherfucker. They get to the goblin base, and he punches the hell out of two goblins who are bigger than him, and he just struts right in. That is definitely thinking with his dick.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. But like I said, this is the other thing, that like I said, the whole story, and there's like a little girl that actually likes James and the crew, and it's like, fucking hell, man, save the colony, fuck the data. Which, again, when you realize that later you wipe out the collectors in the second game, it really puts this whole thing into horrible context. It's like, oh no, what have I done? Indirectly, what have I done? But anyway, but that's my point. The Paragon Lost movie fleshes out James's story, and we get to see another aspect of the Mass Effect universe. The comic books are another good example because they are chock full of interesting stories and crazy ideas that you don't see in the games, and it's quite cool. You know, like I'm trying to think. Some of the comics are more serious and have like some details that kind of flesh out your crew or your friends or some aspects of the universe that you normally wouldn't see very often. And it's interesting, you know, like how bounty hunters work in Mass Effect and how ships are built and things of that nature. Just small details or small side stories that really flesh out the people you're with or put context to the story as a whole. And it works quite well, I would say. Especially for like showing the elusive man's origins or how he becomes, what leads him to become corrupted. It all works out really well. And with that extra information in hand, it doesn't detract from the games, really. If anything, it adds to it, which is the opposite of, like, you know, for example, Overwatch claiming certain characters are gay or certain characters aren't. How does that change? You know, it doesn't really add anything to the game you're playing. It's more like supplementary things that really doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's like the animated shorts, really.
Yeah. Again, it's like, you know, a perfect example, and something I've harped on for years on end, and that is a character should be what their personality is, you know, what their goal, what their history is, yada, yada, yada. That's what it should be. Making everything about a character's race, gender, and who they sleep with does not make a good character.
Yeah.
You're what's the best way to put it? You're making the character revolve around these traits instead of making the traits revolve around the character. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
yeah.
You're making the people watching focus on something that really doesn't matter. Like, the person is
Exactly.
there for the character in the sense of, like, their personality or their actions. They're not there because the person's black, white, Asian, a sea monster. Like, though granted, if it's like an alien character, some people will really want to know the backstory of that.
That's fine. Exactly. That's what makes handles this extremely well too, because they focus on the ideas of the characters they want to focus on. Like, oh, here is how do I put it? A perfect example is Rex. He is the stereotypical Krogan, and yet he makes it work for him
Yeah.
because he's an old jaded man. But he's how do I put it best? Um, okay, right. Tally puts it best. She says, "You're the crazy headbutting uncle I never had."
Yes.
I love that fucking thing. And that's what it works. You will, for aliens and other beings, you want to learn more about the species specifically. So you'll go and you'll ask them 20 questions, and slipping in information that isn't relevant to the individual but relevant to the species is fine. Like in Andromeda, for example, right? There is a moment where Liam, not our Liam, another Liam.
We have 2 Liams.
We have 3 technically, if we're counting the one in Mass Effect. Well, let's put it this way: this Liam is boring; the others are not. Take that how you will. But basically, Liam here talks to Jaw and questions the guy a lot. And one of the details he'll mention, it's something completely innocuous, but it brings new context to the Angara, is he says, it turns out we are immune to the capsaicin in your peppers, but the arsenic, or not arsenic, it's like something ionized in the candies hurts like hell. Again, it's a small detail, but it fleshes out the species and the characters perfectly, I might add. Excuse me, 1 second. I will be right
Give me 1 second
back.
while I yell at this motherfucker. Yeah. But brutal honesty, people, I wasn't actually listening to what he meant by all this. I think, personally, the only gaming franchise I've seen that has branched off in something like this has been Halo. If that makes sense. But then again, that was more red versus blue. I'm mostly gonna wait for him to come back.
And I'm back.
Hi.
Yeah. Yes, go on.
I had to reread the list to actually really understand what you're talking about, because brutal honesty, I wasn't listening. But I think the only franchise I remember seeing, and I guess it was only red versus blue in the sense, is Halo. Where there was like an animated, I forget if it was a movie or a show, or if it was literally just that one episode.
It was a series of short movies packed into one disc. That's what it was.
Oh, anyway, I do remember this one episode of like Red versus Blue that was cartoon. It wasn't like the 3D models. It was 2D cartoon.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, that was a pilot concept where they wanted to move away from the 3D and go into like actual animation. But it wasn't because people weren't receptive to the idea. It's just something didn't pan out right. Things just kind of went south, and it all just kind of fell to pieces. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, when you hear about the shit they're doing now, it's like, okay, that could have gone a lot worse. But that's kind of the point. Halo does do a lot of its own things too, and it's actually quite refreshing. You know, you have Halo, the many Halo books that they have. You have the comic books. You have the movies that they wind up making, and then you've got the live action shit. Yeah, they actually did live action movies, or no, a live action TV show, which was okay, but people were kind of like, eh. I don't blame them. It was how do I put it? It wasn't good by any. Well, it was one of two. There was Forward Onto Dawn, which was an okay movie. It was basically like the start of the Human Covenant War, and it was very interesting. I actually liked it. Though I need to say this, there was one fucked up scene in that.
Oh, can you give me a second?
And that.
Hold on.
Sure. Oh, she went over there. So, how's everybody doing? We're good? We're all alive? Yeah. Yeah, he's cool. It's cool.
What did I come back to?
And nothing. I was just being silly.
I was just asking my mom to close the door.
And I was just being silly and saying, like, oh, how's everybody doing? You cool?
Now you know how I feel when I had to do an art stream. Hey guys, how's everybody going? Complete silence. Okay, I'm just gonna turn on music and shut the fuck up. My mom's gossiping upstairs.
No, that's fine. But basically, what I was gonna say, there is a fucked up scene in Halo Forward Onto Dawn, and that is the base has a space elevator to it, right? And it's the only way to like kind of leave the planet, you know, or go comfortably up into space. And during the Covenant attack, a bunch of people are trying to like just run away from the base, like evacuate, mostly civilians and cadets who just they're done fighting, basically. Mm-hmm. And one of the characters, and you know, there's a bunch of military police. They're stopping everyone from going through, and one of them immediately, one of them who apparently got into the academy because her mother is an admiral, basically pushes her weight around at the military police and tells them to let her onto the space elevator. Not her friends, not anybody else, just her. You know, and they're yeah, exactly. So they're all just kind of like, okay. So they let her on. I was
expecting her to have like a chai latte from Starbucks.
Well, no, it gets worse. So she turns back to her friends, who are just staring at her like, you fucking bitch. And the elevator closes, and it starts going up, and you think, oh, okay, that's the end of it. She's going to make it out. You see the Covenant cruiser flying in from the storm that it's created. It shoots the elevator, like, at the storm.
I knew it.
Exactly. It shoots the elevator, and you think, oh, it vaporized them, or oh, it killed them in the elevator. No, it gets worse. Bodies start falling down from the air and start hitting the glass. It's like, oh my God, this is so much worse. This is so much worse than I expected. Yeah. Oh no. It's literally raining people. God. And it's not even like chunks or pieces, like, no, full-bodied humans. Yep. It's like, oh God. But immediately I'm like...
Was it ever explained why the Covenant decided to attack humans?
Oh, yeah, basically because the prophets got an ancient AI working, and the AI shows a planet full of, like, things to be reclaimed, like Forerunner artifacts. They're like, oh, God, and then they find the AI clarifies, it's like, no, it's not artifacts, it's humans. And then it reveals that they mistranslated a word. Instead of reclamation, it's reclaimer, the Forerunner word for humans, basically. The ones who were meant to inherit everything they left behind, the Covenant. And they're panicking. They're like, holy shit, our religion is based on... And then immediately, the prophets disable the AI, keep it from talking to anyone else, and decide to enact a genocidal campaign against humanity. It's like that kid that says, if I can have it, nobody else will.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And I'm immediately, and what's worse is they probably know what can do too. So the fact they want to turn them on too is like, it's so much worse. When you really look at it, it's like, oh my God, people are insane. But anyway, to get back to the point, Halo really does make these spin-off, branching off things away from their games work really well, and people are really receptive to them. They really enjoy these things because it adds to the mythos of the universe. It adds to the overall lore of Halo. And people, they're like, oh my God, it's so... And it inspires people to look at the games with a bigger lens. Because, like I said, when you find out why the Covenant are fighting against humanity, it really pushes you to say, you know what, fuck these aliens even more so. They're all stupid. You're all dumb. You are all a dumb. Sorry, I had to say that again. But yeah. Again, like I said, just me. Yeah, hold on. I'll be back yet again.
Like, speaking of the Prophet, it makes me think of, it's Mass Effect 3, isn't it? Yeah, it's Mass Effect 3, where you get to decide between... I forgot their name again. Yeah, I forgot their name. You get to decide between the Geth and... What is their name?
Quarians.
Quarians, yeah. The Prophet just made me think, like, of, when you're trying to decide between which side to go with. If you go, the only playthrough I've seen is one where they chose the Geth. And even though you have given the strict order to hold your fire, we are allies with these people, that fucking idiot still fires. Still wants to kill the robots.
Yeah, it's Admiral Zelkoris, yeah. Which I still hate that. It's like, motherfucker. What is it? Like, Admiral Ron has a good idea. I should charge you with treason. You fucking should! Get this idiot out of power! Right the fuck now!
The entire time I was watching that playthrough, more than once, I heard the Let's Player go, grow the fuck up, people. Yeah. Yes. Grow up and talk instead of being idiots. Then again,
yes,
it wouldn't have mattered the outcome. I would still always side with Krogans.
Yee, because fuck's Larry. But yeah, but
The delicious liver people.
I
love Krogans.
Yeah. Yes, but like I said, that's what I'm kind of getting to the point here is that I think spin-off media can work really well if it's headed by the people who make the games or anything of that matter. Because the moment you give it to somebody else, they're going to be like, well, I don't really like this aspect about this, and I don't like this either, and I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that. Oh, now I've made something completely different. And now everybody hates me now. A perfect example is, oh god, Paul West W. Anderson, that's it. Or Paul Anderson. The guy who did the live-action Resident Evil movies, and apparently the Alien movie, or the AV movie as well.
Oh boy.
The first one, apparently.
Okay.
I think it's just the first one, but we all know what a complete disaster that was.
I mean,
and he was talking out of his ass, Yeah, but then here's the dumb thing. He said stupid shit when doing the commentary for the movie. The one that comes to mind immediately is that line he says when they're talking about when the facehuggers like attack the people who enter the chamber, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, this is something that's always kind of bothered me about the facehugger. We know how they attack. They open their finger and they get the tail out, right?
Yep.
like when that's coming at you, wouldn't your first instinct be, let me grab the tail and then like throw it, like out, yeet
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
yeet the weird alien hand?
But then again, doing that, even if you grab the tail, it's still gonna find a way to latch onto you.
Maybe. I
You
just,
would have to grab it at the right spot to prevent that.
yeah, and I think you could if you reach your arm out. Just like the second they lunge, they're helpless in the air. You could just easily grab the tail and just start.
As
Either,
evidenced by the predator.
yeah, but you could either grab it by the tail and throw it halfway with enough force halfway across the room, break its little spine. Which again, I think you could. Those things aren't exactly the most durable things.
But they are pretty damn strong.
Or if you want to go the risky route, just whacking the fucking thing onto the floor.
Yeah.
You know, like when you would kill a fish, just do the same thing. Hit it
Until it stops.
and then hit it some
Yeah,
more.
hit it until it stops wriggling.
Yeah, and even then, keep hitting. To be sure.
You know what's funny?
Mm.
Uh, During high school, we had a year where we were studying salmon, because we live in an area that has salmon flows. And they told us that we were going to go to a place that helps the salmon population by pouring jizz into a cup with the eggs. No joke. And apparently, the humane way to deal with salmon is bash it over the head with a club. Or
It makes sense.
repeatedly smash a salmon against a wall. That is humane. Because at one point, like, they were collecting eggs from salmon, and they didn't do that. They just grabbed the fish while it was still wriggling and just cut it open. And it was immediately dead.
Someone's not done their research.
I just found it very, very funny that repeatedly smashing a fish against a wall was humane. But then again, fish apparently don't feel pain.
Which again isn't that surprising environment they live in, but yeah. And anyway, point being, like I said, if the person who creates, not intellectual property, yeah, actually intellectual property, isn't the one behind material, you're going to wind up with a Paul W. Anderson. He's just going to do whatever the hell he wants. Fuck the consequences, and you're stuck with this incredibly lame and shitty supplementary material that might as well not exist.
Doom,
I think that's the big
Star Wars.
the new Doom that it basically
Yeah,
they saw the shit that was coming. They said that's the thing I find funny. It's like it saw the storm that was coming. They immediately jumped on and said, "We're not associated with these people. They don't speak for us."
Yep.
That was hilarious. Just the immediately jump in and just say, "We're not going to do that." Just it makes me laugh. Just nope. We're stopping this right now. It's its own universe, and it's gonna die. But yeah, like I said, this is the caveat that has to. This is the caveat that has going with spin-off material. You have to vet your sources and then tell them, hey, here is the you've got like the Doom Bible or the Star Wars Bible, and you give it to them and you say, this is the shit you do, this is the shit you can't do. You're free to do anything else as long as it falls in line with all of this. That's what needs to happen more these days, you know? People have to look at their quote unquote trusted sources and immediately say, no. You know, the second they say, I want to do something, okay, is it going to work within the confines of this? Is it going to be like that? And if they say, yeah, or if they say, well, I was thinking about doing, you immediately get rid of them and look for somebody else.
Well, first you gotta hear them out and then decide. Because sometimes when they say that, they're likely going to build up on something that was much needed or something that isn't needed.
Typically, they just want to do their own shit,
Yeah.
and it winds up just not being worth it. A perfect example is the Splatterhouse movie. Or, sorry, not movie. The Splatterhouse game that came out in like 2010, somewhere around it, right? Um, hold on, I saw something. Basically, that whole catastrophe was a mess because, according to what I heard, and well, according to sources and information that came out, the creative director was actively not doing the investors wanted, i.e., they wanted a Splatterhouse game, and he was making his own weird fetish shit for the game.
Silent
I'm not even
Hill.
joking.
Yeah.
Basically, trying to make Splatterhouse into Silent Hill, and people were just. And every time they would investigate, like the company would come in and like look into what he was doing, he would um, immediately what's the word? He would just pick up any like concept art laying around or some like shit they had just recently put together as concept level concepts and said, "Hey, look, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this." And then immediately when they were gone, he would say, "Okay, now get back to work on what I want." And when eventually the game had to be fully analyzed and they discovered what he was doing, they promptly fired the fucker.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, like I said, that's the this is the problem when it comes to doing stuff that isn't from the studio or isn't from the creative directors behind a game or a comic or a movie series. You run the risk of having the outside influences taking what should be a relatively simple concept or a relatively simple idea and then ruining it completely, or using it as a vehicle to make their own thing. Fuck the consequences that come with it, basically.
So, this is kind of a controversial thing.
Okay.
The Godzilla movie that was in New York. Everybody knows this one. 1998. Roland
Yeah.
Emmerich.
Uh-huh.
That movie is still really good in the sense that it's a monster movie. It's not necessarily good as a Godzilla movie. And if I remember
Yes.
correctly, Roland Emmerich took the basis of what Godzilla is, but he didn't listen to Toho. He reimagined Godzilla in his own way. He made this creature his own thing. This is not Godzilla like he had promised. This is something else. And because of that, like, the Godzilla fandom doesn't really like this version. And nowadays, everybody has accepted that this is a creature that has the basis of Godzilla in the sense of what he is, not who he is. A giant
Yes.
lizard attacks a city, and near the end, you get rid of it. Because that's what happens in 1954. They still kill him. But that said, I would have to agree with them. This monster is not Godzilla. It is just Zilla.
Exactly. And and again, when you look at the script, like things that got removed from the final movie. Like originally, according to like leaked information, there was supposed to be an enemy that Zilla was meant to fight, and it was supposed to be more in line with the Godzilla movies of old, where basically Zilla was gathering food and things of that nature because of this threat that was looming in the storm or something like that. It was like something like the Ghidorah from the latest movie, like it lives in the storm basically. But
there was also like leaked information that there was going to be a sequel where he does fight
yeah,
a
yeah,
monster. But in the
yeah.
end, it was all that was left was a baby, and the one that survived at the end of 1998. If that's a spoiler for people, gods, where have you been?
No. We've covered the script for the second Zilla movie that never happened. You know, we talked about how Zilla is now living in Africa. Original Godzilla is there is a giant bug called the Big Bitch, which I'm still
I love
sad
that.
to this day. We never got like.
Yeah.
Wait, did we ever get concept art of it? I need to. Let's see. But yeah, like I said, this is a perfect example because a lot of times creators who are outsourced to what's the word? Are outsourced to other um, creative individuals will wind up creating shit that nobody wants, but they'll use something popular, greenlight their own shitty design or shitty concept, and then oh well, now the people hate this, the fandom, and then they immediately use that as a way to get rid of what's the word? Immediately use it to get rid of criticism by saying, well, I did what the studio. I created something new and innovative for the move, for the series, and you all don't like it because you don't understand, the, the
This is,
very.
I love 1998 just because I grew up with that. It was my it was technically like my original introduction to the Godzilla series, but 2000 was the one that did it specific.
It's yeah, I
OBS,
figured.
yay, reconnected.
All right,
Mother.
and we're back for the fifth time. Yeah. So you were saying taking the source material
and respecting what was originally there. Like I've explained this through Godzilla 2000 because I watched it with a director's commentary. Throughout the entire process of Godzilla 2000, which is an American movie technically, they have to talk with Toho constantly. They have to show them what they're doing. Like, is this right? They cannot do their own thing.
exactly. It's just like with anyone, somebody else's characters or stories. You talk to them and say, "Hey, can I do? Should we do that?" And
With 2014, they still had to share what they were doing with Toho. Granted, they were doing their own thing. They just couldn't remove too much of what was already there. Godzilla still has to come out on top. He still has to be a giant monster that breathes fire with spikes on his back. He's still the king. And whatever he's fighting, it can be brand new or it can be something original. It just has to be something that fits in some way.
Yeah, Mutos were a perfect example, and it worked.
Yeah. And in the latest film, they're using old characters, but they're giving them an amazing polish, an amazing rework. And the entire time, the director was working with Toho. Like, he was in Japan for a majority of the film. Surprise, surprise. Just talking with them and figuring things out. Like, okay, how is this concept for Rodan? How is this design for Mothra? How does this work for King Ghidorah's personality? And just all of this, working with them.
Flying in the fuck off storm.
Yeah. But all in all, when it comes to branching off using medias to work with these games, you have to work with the original studio. You have to work with the original concepts in some way, shape, or form. You can't fetishize it for yourself.
Yeah. And honestly, like I said, and that kind of has always put a horrible line of stank on anything that's spin-off or creative from any intellectual property. These people who look for an opportunity to latch onto the project and use it specifically to make their own thing happen. And honestly, that's why I'm like, what's the word? And that's kind of the point I'm making. It's just, you got to vet these sources. You got to look back and say, did they make good movies or do they respect this? No, then BTFO. That's it. That's all. Again, perfect example, Doom Annihilation.
Yeah.
And how quickly it disavowed that.
Yeah.
I'm not letting that go, by the way, miss. Oh, who needs to do, a Doom guy? Well, apparently you do, because you're fucked. Dumb cow.
I mean, I know it's it has nothing to do with all this, but I have to look at Bioshock. Just, we didn't need a third. As beautiful as it was, we didn't need it. Could have stopped at 2. Just
Well, apparently what is it? The original creator pissed off that he wasn't gonna. He lost the right to the project, so he created a DLC that murdered everything and reset it back to 2, basically making it so that Infinite never happens.
yay!
In a sense, it's like it's kind of
Fuck
funny, but
Infinite.
it's yeah. But yeah, basically our main other media can help a game and really make it shine, but it really should be in the hands of the original creators, not some rando who said, you know what, I'm going to do this.
Like,
That's
again, going back to Godzilla, before 2014 came out, there was actually a comic book series that explained his story. And
Yeah.
I actually follow the comic book artists, like the official comic book artist for all of the Godzilla films.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. And like I said, it's as long as someone can be trusted to respect the thing and just be like, you know what, I'm going to do this, then it should be in good hands. But the moment someone says, I want to do something different, and in a sense of because I feel like it should be like this, not because I think we should try something else or hey, let's try and prove this. That's the moment you basically have to look at the guy, say that again, or do this, and we're going to get you off this project faster than you can say it. Write my check. That's how I think things should be from now on. The moment someone decides to change things that don't need to be changed because they feel like it would be better, need to be like booted out the window immediately.
Now I'm starting to think of Transformers.
Michael Bay.
Like, the Bee movie, Bumblebee's movie, was perfect. It's amazing.
Really, exactly. Really shows you what a Transformers movie.
You know what's hilarious? I saw the first Transformers movie 6 times in a row in theaters, and like this is why I have not moved past the first movie. Not only because it's your childhood coming to life for the first time, but also, bleh. But like, first time I went to see it, it was alone. Second time I went to see it, my brother was with me. Third, my brother and my dad. Then my mom. Then my best friend. Then my best friend and the rest of our group.
Alright.
I am filled up on Transformers movies. No thank you.
Yeah, and I've sat through all of them. I've watched them, and I see the degradation. I see the hack writer that is my day, and I'm just like, no, I'm done. I'm not coming back. We're finished here. And B comes out, and I feel so sorry for the creators behind it, because they're shackled to Michael Bay's shit, and everyone's like, no, you should have done your own thing. You should, and that's saying something. At the hardcore Transformer base is saying, no, disregard the live action movies.
Disregard Michael Bay.
Exactly, just make your own thing, and because you clearly know what you're doing.
Yes.
It says something.
Yes.
It really does. And I feel so sorry for the guy, really, because he's shackled to this bullshit. It's
but
like I want to hurt him.
All in all, once again, going back to Godzilla. Godzilla actually has a shit ton of comic book series attached to the movies, and not a single one of them branches off too far from what he is. Except maybe Godzilla Goes to Hell. That one is probably my favorite, because Godzilla quite literally goes to hell and fights the devil. And wins. He gets out of hell. I just thought it was hilarious. But like,
Godzilla Doom crossover when?
That would suck. Who would win though? The Doom guy or Godzilla?
No, it's not a matter of who would win. They're just, you got Godzilla rampaging through hell, and you got Doom guy just sitting there on his shoulder, shooting everything.
It's like Godzilla's rampaging through hell. Doomguy's just stand there with like a Wendy's Frosty. He's like, good job,
Exactly.
slurp.
Exactly. He's just sitting there like,
I don't need to do anything. He's got it covered.
exactly.
But all in all, I definitely think some, not all, some game franchise, if they're well loved and treated right, should branch out in their own way. Like, use
Agreed.
other medias to promote their game.
Agreed.
And to tell stories, of course.
Yeah, and it should be, again, with the caveat of it from the original creators, if anything else.
Yeah, respect original material. You, so far with like Warframe in the comics, they respect the material. They use what's already there. But then again, it's made by the people who made Warframe.
Yes, and it's funny.
Yeah. But let's say we had a comic from Warframe where it showed no Warframe, but it showed like colonists. You could potentially do your own thing, but at the same time, you would have to be careful what you reference or what you use.
Yes.
Because as open-ended as these comics and stories might be, and this point of view, you still have to remain true to the to what's already there.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that covers everything. So yeah, I guess that covers everything for tonight. We've said our piece.
Yeah.
All right. So again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Left Right and Talk. Sorry for these slight problems on this end. Nothing we can really do about that. And for the end, for HH's usual wrap-up spiel, this has been Rev, and we will see you all next Thursday.
Yeah.
See ya.
Oh boy. Let me actually send that to Koozie, disconnect. There we go. Alright. Sorry, I'm itching my ear. We have disconnected twice in one stream. Twice. I'm a little short-fused, as I said before. I'm just gonna make this very simple, and I really hoped that YouTube had fixed its problem earlier before I noticed that it had broke, which is rather weird. In the description below, on YouTube, there is a link, which is what I was hoping would be fixed, that shouldn't be there. And on Twitch, there's a creeper face down below. Both of them lead to the exact same thing. Both of them tell you to support the stream by donating to blah 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 blah. Don't click on them. They don't work. They're not meant to be there. The creeper face is just there as a placeholder. But the link in YouTube is not supposed to be there, but it keeps showing up. Hold on. Yeah, don't click on them. We're still working on that. I'm not proud of myself for it. I'm trying. For those of you who are on Twitch, we are going to host my good friend Lycan Alpha. For those of you on YouTube, I am sorry, this is where we're going to end. There's really no hosting system on YouTube, and then again, I wouldn't really want to do that. So, thank you guys so much for watching. We will... Oh, wait, no. If anybody's curious why we didn't have the Pokemon of the Month today, or the Gundam of the Month, we've been doing this, like, this, thing literally every month, like second week or first week, depends if we're on the ball. It's just been so chaotic the past weeks that we just don't really care to do that this time. So there's really no Pokemon of the Month for June or Gundam of the Month for June. We'll have to find out what's going on in July, because nearing the July portion of the summer, and also when it comes to November, those are like the worst time of the year for me. I don't like that time of the year. I'm very cranky, and all in all, I'm very bitchy about it. I'm not comfortable. So, yeah. We're gonna go host Lycan. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.